Welcome to Albion TV presents the AO Daily Show, your source of real news in an unreal world, keeping you up to date on the latest news, events, and the great community of Albion Online. Today is Thursday, the 12th of December. I am your host, Shozen, and sitting with me in virtual space in some cloud somewhere in the internet is my friend Bogul. How are you doing today, sir?
Hello, Shozen. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited. We got way more news than we have room for on a half-hour show. So, guys, this is going to be a long show. This will be well over half an hour, and it will be in two parts. We will be doing it today as well as tomorrow. So, wait. The stream is hanging? Is that right? Do you guys see it? Okay, because,
No.
all right, give me a second on my end. I've got to do a refresh. Weird. Sorry for the hang-up, guys. I was not seeing the stream. All right, that's better. I can breathe now, Bogul.
It looked fine from my end.
Yeah, it didn't look fine from my end,
let's
so
do
I
this.
have to make sure it looks good on my end. If it doesn't look good on my end, I'm going to start freaking out, man. So I told these guys, Bogul, I've been advertising for a while in general chat today. And I told them if more than 40 of them entered the raffle before the show entered, I would pull a 3750 raffle. And you know what? They did. There's 51 of them. And I'm going to pull that raffle right away. Zukin, you have won 3750. Congratulations, Zukin. Thank you guys who all came early. I appreciate you all. You're all freaking awesome. Let's get on with the show and start a brand new raffle. Yeah, you know how it goes. Bogle, we have a couple PSAs before we get to the meat of the show. What do we got for these guys?
First things first, usually Thursdays is our Market Watch Thursday. The Market Watch Thursday today will be very brief, non-existent, I dare to say, because we we just have so much other stuff that is more important. First things first, gold, of course, is still on a sort of down trend. It has been waggling up and down its little tail in the last few days. It had a little uptick, but still it's hovering around that 3,000 gold mark. Probably some of that uptake was related to the recent starting of the auction week that is currently ongoing. So in case you are interested in the plots game of the cities, the bidding has started there. So don't miss your chance. Don't forget to place your defense bids in case you own anything there. And be aware of that. And I think with that, I suppose 1 month of premium is down to 7.5 million silver, and 12 months are down to 57 million silver.
It was a little
And I
lower
think
last
that's
week.
almost.
I think when
Yeah.
we last looked at it, it was a little bit lower. But again, we think that it bumped up just a little bit because of the auctions, and it's already back on a downswing. And like I said, guys, I think we're going to see this dip below 3. So it's, I don't know when, but
Or if ever.
no, I believe it's going to happen. I'm pretty sure. Bogle and I were talking about this before the show, how we both do things very differently. How Bogle does not have a lot of cash on hand. He has very little silver, very little gold. He puts it all into working capital, as in it's either in the form of laborers, buildings, resources, or bags that are on their way out the freaking door. He has very little on hand. Me, I always have wealth on hand because I turn mine into gear when I need it. I'm a very on-demand player, where Bogle's a very long-term player. So we have very different gaming styles, but it means that we do different things. Like, I'm always looking at what the value of silver is compared to the value of gold, because I don't want to lose my money while just sitting around. As long as my wealth, either stays the same or goes up, I'm happy. So I just keep paying attention. Whereas you have to work your wealth constantly. I just want to wait. I made my big pile early on, and now I'm just sitting on it.
I think we can spend a whole show discussing this, but
we could.
sadly we don't have the time
We've got
today,
real
because
stuff
we
going
do
on.
have to mention 2 news pieces that came
do have
out
real
before
news.
we have time to discuss the meat of today's show, which is the standalone season roundtable conference call leak that was put onto Reddit. But let's discuss the Retroman update post first, which was posted just 5 hours ago, which is an addition to the previously announced changes to the item power scaling of gear. He goes into the thread to say that they are planning further additional changes to the adjustment, where you get mastery modifiers. So if you have higher masteries, you get certain bonuses on different tiers of items. That is 5% on tier 5, for example, and up to 20% on tier 8. So that's another sort of push to make tier 8 gear a little bit better, quote unquote, in the open world, and give some more incentive to wear higher tier gear if you have higher masteries.
And we've been talking about this for a while now, that we believe that there's going to be more and more T plus gear in the world, whether it's 0.1, 2, 3, or that 7, 2, and 3. Those high-end resources are going to be more plentiful, I believe. The gear is going to be more used, and they're doing everything they can to make that gear not just viable, but like you want to use it. You want to get that advantage that you didn't have before. We had that the soft cap. We had other ways to make it just not matter as much. This is just another step in making high level gear better, so that there's more of a reason to use it. You want to get that advantage over your enemy, and it will be significant now, whereas before the game was making it so your gear advantage was lessened because of, like we said before, the scarcity of high-end materials that existed in the world for your average guild for such a long time, because the only way to get tier 8 and above was to have it in your territory. Since that's been changed, more and more changes to the game have been made to make T8 more viable to use and more plentiful. And we will see more of those as Queen comes out.
Yes, of course, we have to observe how these changes, in practice affect both the markets and the use rates of gear. But it's a little bit early to, make any sort of predictions in that direction. So I will link that for everybody in Twitch chat in case you want to go comment on the forums there. But we do have another official news piece that we need to talk about, that apart from the content, which is called Player and Item Migration with the Queen update, has on first sight something that we haven't seen yet, regardless of what the headline says. It's a image, show the image, of the planned Outlands.
Yeah, that's look. The 3D image of it. We've seen the map, like the just the zone map of, no pretty graphics, no art at all. But now we get to see what it's going to look like with all the mountains, rivers, ravines, forest, crevasses, lakes, and, I don't know, deserts. All the great things that you get to see there when it's painted.
Sadly, it's a little bit of a low resolution image, but I think that's still a work in progress.
Yes.
But that's a nice image to, see sort of where we're going. And if you look at the center, that's where Avalon is supposed to be, right? Or that's where the big X always was when we had the 2D structural map there. And you can't really see what it is, right? It's just a lake with an island, or with
ice,
clouds or
ice or maybe it's the mists of Avalon.
Oh.
And as you zoom in, it's mists. And those are little poofs of clouds, not little miniature islands. Because those would be tiny, tiny islands, if those are in fact islands around that centerpiece. So it could be mist. I don't know what it is. We have no idea. Bogul, we have no idea. For all we know, a giant statue of King Mojo could erupt from the center because, we're so biased to Blue Army. And that's what we were going to do. We were just going to say, no, this is just a monument to the second king.
But let's actually talk about the content.
And we'll title it Queen. We'll make a Mojo statue, and we'll title it the Queen.
Well, the news post goes on to saying that the Queen update arrives on January 20th, 2020, as we knew already. And below are explained the rules for migrations for the items that you currently have. in the Outlands and in the Royals, because as you can see on the new map, this will be the new map that will happen post-Queen, meaning the old map will go away and stuff will have to be moved or be removed. And
Chat has
there's a lot of rules.
Yeah, there's a lot of rules, and chat does have a question right away. They are saying, "What if we have too much stuff?" When Robin was talking about this, I was on the call, and he said, as far as he knows, it's infinite space. You just keep scrolling down.
Well, I think in theory how it works is that you can imagine that you have a sort of withdrawal-only additional bank tab. So there you can take stuff away out from to use, but you can't put stuff into. And then once everything is taken out of that tab, it just disappears.
Yeah, you can't put nothing back in, so it's all coming back. And yes, there will be some players who suddenly get quite wealthy overnight. I think if people like Lupac, IGT is going to be doing pretty well. Vetten's going to do pretty good. There are some people out there who've been dropping their stuff in chests for a very, very long time and have no idea where it is. Me, I know where all my stuff is, Bogul. I just can't get it.
Well, that's good for you anyways, right? Yeah. The funny thing is whether or not your stuff will arrive in Carleon, because then you have to, to get it back into the Outlands, you have to get it from Carleon to the Royal Cities and then back to the Outlands. So that there will be opportunities for gankers with Queen, for sure. Now that said, do we want to go through all these migration rules, or
if you can be quick, if you can be super quick, because we are already at 12 minutes here, and we do want to talk about these leaks, and we've just been hitting up the new news.
So basically, the TLDR is that your stuff will get moved, depending on where it is. The banks and battle vaults of players will be moved to a royal. Oh, actually, it says royal city, huh? Guild banks and other things will. The contents of these will also be moved. In addition to moving gear back to the royal cities, there will also be a island move, which isn't necessarily directly connected to the Outlands, but due to the new structure and some people probably leaving Carleon, there has to be an option for them to move their personal island to one of the zones or the royal cities in the royal continent. I suppose the most important thing is which stuff is not getting moved.
Right, because that's kind of important to know.
Is in danger of getting destroyed, and that is specifically the stuff that is for sale or in the completed tab of marketplaces in guild home territories, and stuff that is placed inside chests like inside furniture items like chests inside of territories, and farms, but these are almost non-valuable, like if you have cabbage somewhere.
Well, I mean, if you have dire wolves or something, you can also lose those. But we have another question. Somebody was asking, what about if they left their guild and they are no longer there? I'm pretty sure you're not getting that. Like your stuff that you, if you're not in the guild anymore, as far as I know, you're just not getting it. Like, that's been the way that it's always been. I've never heard of them specifically saying that stuff on a guild that you used to be in's guild bank is still coming back to you. I don't think that's the way it's happening. Unless you
if you have a personal tab, stuff that's in the guild coffers will just belong to the guild.
Yeah, but say if you have a bank on a guild island that you were once in, and you left that guild, and you can't get back into that guild, I don't think you're getting that stuff back when the move occurs.
Banks on guild islands aren't moving.
No, they're not. So that's just not happening. So sorry, chat. Will items in personal islands be destroyed as well? No. Personal islands, you get an option to move them. Your personal islands aren't in the Outlands. Only stuff in the Outlands is getting moved and or destroyed. So if you have a home plot out there and you have stuff in boxes, like actual chests, that will get destroyed. If you have stuff in the auction house on your home plot in the Outlands, that stuff will get destroyed. If you have stuff in your guild vault there that you've left that guild and are no longer in that guild, you don't get an option to go get it back. It's also going to be destroyed. Now, there's a lot of people who have stuff in those territory towers, though, like those resource towers, those and the war camps. Those are all getting moved back to you. You'll be able to get that. There'll be a tab that you'll be able to reclaim from. Only reclaim. You can't put anything back in there. You'll have a time limit, I imagine, to get it all out of there and find a place for it. And then if you want to, there will be a window in which you can move your guild island from one place to another. I believe it's from any place to another place. You get one chance during this window to move your island. And nothing gets destroyed when you move your island. Your island stays perfectly safe from what I understand.
Yes. There is also a temporary amnesty for low reputation characters to allow for some movement. So players below 15,000 reputation will have their reputation adjusted to exactly minus 15,000 to allow for movement within the yellow and red zones. So you don't get stuck somewhere. But if you have that adjusted and then you kill somebody and then you go back, then you have to wait until it ticks down. So be mindful of that. I think we will talk about the specific item migration again as we get closer to Queen in January. But it's just so that in case anybody has questions about the specifics of this is finally announced now. You can tell everybody that this is out and their rules are on the official homepage for everybody to read up for when there will inevitably be questions. English. Yeah. That is official news, Shozen, I think, right?
Yes, but I need to now bring up the bulk of today's show, which we'll be doing probably for another half hour or so. So you will get a lot of coverage on this. We're going to talk about the round table. I don't want to call it a leak because we were going to talk about it eventually anyway. They're excited that we're talking about it. They put it together so we could talk about it. But we play this weird game where we won't talk about it until you guys leak it. Shh, don't tell anybody.
So what you are about to see is a written summary of the roundtable conference call that happens about once every 1 or 2 months or so, where a bunch of members of the roundtable, usually guild masters and high-ranking officers and some associates like lucky us, we get to hang out with the devs for about 2 hours or so, 1 or 2 hours, where we can just throw a bunch of questions at them and they use that time also to get some feedback. So this content is divided into questions and answers, where first the players, state something or ask something, and then there's a response. We will try and go sort of from the top down there. If you want to zoom in a little, so it's better readable on the stream, then you can see that. The thing is, we cannot link this thread from the forums because a lot of people don't have access, but there is a copy paste of this on Reddit if you want to look. Okay, so I think I introduced it sufficiently. Anything else to say about the context of this? I suppose, the whole thing happened a few weeks ago, 29th of November. So it's already 2.5 weeks old. And that's the summary of that little call.
I think that's it. Let's just get right into it. So this is a summary, guys. Roundtable members asked for more information on Queen update and when that would be released to the public. Guys, there's going to be releases consistently over the next few weeks. I mean, as we lead before Christmas, they plan on finalizing what's going to be in Queen. And then they will be transitioning from building Queen to announcing Queen. And that is, for a video game company, that's actually a development phase. You have to tell people correctly what's going to be in the patch when it's something this big, because it is a massive change to the game going forward. the next month is basically going to be just them working their butts off to tell you what's coming. And we're going to do everything we can to be the intermediaries to explain what they're saying. Because Bogle, I don't want to keep pounding a dead horse here, but SBI's got a great naming system on things, and they need translators, and that's what our job is. We translate the nonsense that SBI says to you guys, and we love doing it. So without any further ado, let's get on to this island move, which we just talked about, because this was the first thing they, like we said, they're going to be releasing more information, guys. This is the first bit of new information that they already released. It just happened an hour ago.
Today.
Like not even a full hour ago, like 45 minutes ago, it feels like. Yeah. Roundtable members asked for if more information will be provided to help players to plan their island move. Yes, it's right there. You guys can go look for it. Next.
There was a question about whether or not fast travel will change at all. So the answer is just no. That's kind of boring, but
maybe in the future,
why should it?
But not now.
Maybe,
yeah.
Why should it?
No, it shouldn't be.
Then the main topic sort of changed to crystals. Crystals, if you don't know, is the Crystal League, the sort of thing that the GVG system will morph into or combine with. I mean, we have the crystal GVGs and the normal GVGs as 5 versus 5 content, but these will be sort of merged into crystals. And the question there was how impactful these will be in the future, because there were some concerns, is 5 versus 5 content going away? And always the dev said no, they want to merge this. They want to make it relevant and important still. And now for the first time, we have a number that speaks to the significance of the Crystal League in the future. And here they say that they are looking at providing or giving guilds about 40% of their points, their season points from the Crystal League, which is a big amount, I feel like.
Yeah, that's going to be, I mean, we don't know exactly what that is into relation now, because I feel like some of those points are coming from mages right now. But they did talk about mages as well. I don't want to bounce around too much here, but I want to say that the impact of crystals is going to be huge if they're 40%, because it's not just the 40% that they're giving you for season points. It's the next part here that they talk about. The buffs that you're going to get from leveling up your towers by doing crystals is going to me, it's the biggest, it's the ghost change. It's that sneaky change that makes the biggest change to the game. To me, the big change of the game is that this new map is designed to get you to live in the areas you own and to live out of the black zones, not a city on the royal continent that then you travel to the black zones to do your content. It's to get you to live out of there, improve the area you live, use that improvement as your gameplay loop so that you use ZVZ to take the territory. Then you build your hideout. Then you upgrade your hideout, and then you crystal to upgrade your tower. You upgrade your tower, you get better resources in the area, and then you continue that loop of staying in that area and fighting and defending your men and women who live there as your content. No longer going other places for content, unless you know somebody else lives somewhere and you want to go raid their ass. But no longer is it living in the cities, waiting for a CTA, saying, guys, it's 15 minutes before the hour. Let's go ride out to go look for somebody who may or may not be there.
I mean, there will be timer-based content still, and there will be events that are based on timers. So I think the CTAs will still exist to a certain degree, but it's certainly a very different situation than now. Bonus buffs. People were, of course, curious what kind of buffs.
Yeah, the buffs themselves aren't just going to be to the resources, Bogle. As they stated, this is going to be the buffs to the guards will make the guards. This is just like an estimate, 150% stronger if you get them to top level. They haven't said what it'll do towards the resource generation, but they say it sounds like that's going to be the main impetus to get you to level your tower, is how much more fame and resources you get by having a full tower. That's going to be like this motivating push. They also said that by doing this, you can upgrade your mages so that they give twice as many season points as a standard mage, which I think is great. The more effort you put into your home, the more it should be valued to both you and to outside players who want to come looking for content. And I think that's huge. Now, I saw in chat, and I know this is a little off topic, but I wanted to tackle this because it's a big one that keeps coming up. Will this mean that like small groups don't have a place? And I think that this means that small groups will have a place. As we talked about during the dev talk here, they talked about how hard it will be to get somebody out of a hideout. I see of it as like you dig in like a tick, man. You are in there once you are in. Getting in the first time might be a little difficult. You might have to do a little political maneuvering. You might have to show up and win a ZVZ. But once you're in, I think it's going to be very hard to get somebody out quickly. It'll have to be a sustained battle. And the amount of value to kicking them out is not that big unless you want that place. So for guilds that are, those high intensity guilds that want to fight the best, that want the best stuff, that, need to get their resource towers to tier 10, they're not really going to be hanging out on the outer reaches where all these smaller guilds are hanging out, because it's not going to be worth it to them to spend 10 days ZVZing you for 2 hours a day when you can infinitely spawn out of your hideout.
I mean, it's still a potential power imbalance, right? But based on the location and based on the value of the area, there will be a certain, how do you say this, fanning out of placing your thing. And the theory is that, the outer rings will be the areas for the quote unquote not so strong guilds to live. And of course, we have to see how this works in practice. And I share this concern a little bit that, the big bad guys can just come on and smack on you. But at the same time, you can, bat phone your friends and be like, hey, ZVZ coming up. Do you want to get some free gear? Because these guys suck, So there is the potential for figuring out how to get in there and stay there, not just by fighting, but also by political means, and just by choosing an area that is not in the front yard of some of the biggest, strongest guys.
One of the questions is specifically about solo players having a hideout. There is a player that I was talking to, I believe right after this, who wanted to make his own hideout and then give everybody access to his hideout, create an auction house so that everybody could use it, and have a place where anybody who was part of any guild who wanted to spawn at this location and have access to the black players, black zones, and other black zone players for PvP, they could just spawn out of there as like the Iron Bank city. Like that's what he wanted to make, was this free city of which anybody could go from. And a solo player could set that up. Now, could he defend it without other people willing to help him defend it? Probably not. You'd need those other free players who wanted to defend a city, have that access. They'd have to defend it. You can't. It's like, I want to have a city. Well, then buy an army. Because if you want a city, you either need to be multiple man so you can defend it yourself, or you need to have some people who want to defend it. Mercenaries work, friends work, family members work. Whatever it is you want to do to defend that city, you got it.
The practical way how this will work is that you can set the access rights on hideouts similar to how you can set them for chests or guild islands or other areas where you can set access rights, meaning you can allow any player to enter that hideout, and inside a hideout there's no PvP, so it is sort of a free city with a dangerous entrance. But yeah, that should be interesting whether or not we see these quote-unquote free cities, and whether or not that is a viable way of staying in the Outlands.
It's going to be interesting. I think we're going to see a lot more, I don't know, like the way Arch is right now, where you have a lot of small guilds that are banded together, that work together to have a benefit. I would not be surprised if we see that with looser ties, not even necessarily alliances, but somebody who's a little bit stronger, owns a zone, says you guys can all be here,
Mm.
and it's going to be on the fringes, and everybody will be able to have a shot at it because it's very, very hard to take people out once they're there, in the Outlands. And I think there's going to be a lot of guilds/alliances who think that it's fine to allow other people in. Maybe not in all their zones, but in a couple of them.
So then next thing would be territory banks. The question was whether or not there will be banks and whether or not they will have a certain level. And the answer was that the old banks, from territories will be gone, as we mentioned earlier, but there will still be a small battle vault for the purpose of using it to fight crystals from. This is only limited to a certain subset of gear, because you can launch or you can join the crystal fights from territories, from hideouts, from the cities. So there needs to be a way to sort of put your gear there. And I think if you want to fight for a certain tower level, then your gear has to be in that tower.
Or on you, or
I don't know
something.
I don't know if it can be in a zone or in a hideout in that zone, or if it has to be in that tower, but it has to be close, right? So that will still exist, battle vaults, but the expectation is more that people or guilds will store their stuff in their hideouts or in the cities. And I suppose here some of the new the trading posts that exist in the Outlands also count as cities, so there will be a bank, but no more territory banks to store all of your tier 6 stone that you harvested for 2 hours.
Okay. Yeah.
Then we have a question in regards to the matchmaking system of the Crystal League, because we don't know anything about that yet. And the sort of simple answer is that there is no super crazy in-depth ELO system.
Not yet.
The matchmaking will be based on what token you use. There will be different levels of tokens, and just the teams who have a similar token will fight. But within that token level, I don't think there is a matchmaking.
No, just so it's each like early on, you'll see a lot of imbalanced fights in the lower levels. But as you get to the higher levels, it's going to, in and of itself, be a matchmaking system, because it's going to filter out the players who can't get that 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 ranked token.
Right.
But yeah, there's some things in the end that do seem a little weird. What happens for no-shows? What happens for at the end if you don't have anybody to fight? It sounds like if there's a no-show, you get half the reward and you move on. At the end of the season, if there's nobody to fight, the active team wins and is considered the big winner, and they get the full prize if they're the only one at the end.
At the highest.
At
level,
tier 10, yeah. Because there is a mathematical chance, the way this works, that only one team would get the T10 token, and there would just be nobody for them to fight. So, the way that
you have to account for it, and you have to make sort of a matchmaking system that works with a fairly small team pool, I would say, because
it is a small team pool, and that's what makes it hard, because you need to make it so that you filter without filtering too great. Because if you filter out too great, then you'll never get new matches. You'll be, the way it would be is you just have the same 10 people fighting each other every day, like we currently do now. Though it's a bit better now. Actually, it's a bit better now, like it was in the past, where every day you knew what the match was going to be. I'm hoping that this changes this, and by just making it a little bit softer, using tokens instead of a more complicated ELO, it allows them to really, just get more experience, is really what I'm thinking. I know it's going to end up crushing a lot of players, because they're going to go against Derek and get their ass kicked. It's going to happen at tier 3. You're not going to like it, but it might make you better.
I mean, it happens once, and then he sort of hopefully moved on, and then there should be a fairly fast, separation of equal skill levels. Yeah, then there is a question in regards to the quantity and rarity of these various crystal fights, and the expressed worry that the Southeast Asian time zone will not have as many timers.
It's true.
The mathematical way this works is that you have to have a lot of low tier fights, so you can then generate the high value highest tier fights just based on how much it costs to play, sort of. And that needs to get progressively different, and you need to carry on that value to give a better payout on the higher levels.
The goal on this is to make the people who, the end victory condition is supposed to be special. Like if you get to the end and you win, they want you to feel like you got an amazing reward, right? They want you to feel like you won a tournament, you won a season, you won something. You won the Super Bowl of Albion. You get to take home that giant encrusted diamond ring that weighs more than your first child. And that's what they want to give you here. And in order to do that, they have to put in a lot of costs. And the best way to do that is by having a huge amount of low-level fights that grind out tokens for value. And I know it might seem a little weird at the beginning, but I'm guessing by the third time we do this season, all the kinks will be worked out of this, and it'll feel really good to win the season. Of crystals. Yeah. Even just of crystals. Not even if it has independent of the season itself, just the crystal season.
And one more thing about the time slots. There will be a time slot specifically for the SEA time zones. So there should be, in theory, plenty of opportunities to get into the system and join the fight from there. Yeah, it's just hard to make a prediction, I think, because we don't know the player pool size. And I think that's one of the very big factors. And of course, we hope that more people will join the Crystal League over time. So you can have even more people participate.
Well, I do feel that's going to happen. I hate to go off on a small tangent here, but the idea of as you start to separate out people in the crystals, and people get to see how easy the crystals are to get into, because one of the things they're going to be doing is allowing people to crystal out of any city, so you don't even have to have territory. They're making the ability to own territory of which you can crystal out of, the hideouts, much easier. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the number of people who participate in crystal double after a couple of months. Like, I don't think we're going to initially, when this pops out, have twice as many crystal GVG teams. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think slowly over time, and by slowly I mean 2-3 months, it'll double. Because the rewards will be
fun. It
will
be more, just because you can launch from a city. Like if you can launch, or if you can participate in all of the crystal levels from any of the royal cities, as far as I know, it works like you sort of walk up to the energy manipulator dude, and then you put in your token, and then you get teleported. I think that's a super low barrier of entry.
Yes, absolutely.
So that should be good.
And when you know that, like, on day 3, that Derek and Cargera aren't going to be facing you because they're going to be in a tier 3 crystal, and you're going to be in a tier 1, you're going to be thrilled. You're going to hop right in. Yeah. You're going to be like, yeah, I'm going against Zorn. I can do this.
Oh, okay.
Or phrasing.
Then there was a question whether or not there is an option to integrate between Arena and Crystals. And the simple answer there is that it's a different system where Crystals are supposed to have higher value and higher stakes. Because it's full loot, right?
Yeah, it's full loot. It's...
and Arena is more of a, I had to call it that, but playground where you just slap each other with like plastic straws and be like,
It's like the kiddie pool. It's where you go where there's a lifeguard. He's going to make sure that nobody drowns. Nobody splashes too much. There's no, I don't know. There's no running even. If you trip and fall, you're just going to slide because it's all padded. I like arenas. I do. When I want to goof around, I hop in arenas. I do really wish, this is like one of my hopes for this game, is that we eventually see a rework for arenas that allows for a ranking system, so that if you are one of the people who wants to take the arenas seriously, you can. Or a once a week or month time period where arenas have like a tournament, not necessarily like a structured tournament like round robin or anything like that, where like it's a single knockout where we use our tokens that we have for crystals to do something special for arenas, to just the people who want to be good at it. I feel bad for, because they can't really get anything for being good out of it, and I would like them to have an opportunity to get a bit out of it other than just a mount skin.
I mean, it says here that they will look at arena as a separate topic to make things like ELO visible, have a ranking system, and push some more modes where players can quote unquote practice. But based on my experience and my guess, that's 2021 or something. So it's fairly low in terms of priority, and there's just so much other stuff to get out of the door. Maybe 2020, end of 2020, but it's a long-term topic.
Yeah.
Then there was a question about esports. And I think the answer is political, and it's funny. It's like, of course, the approach GFGs has always been to have an esports-like focus on it. They want to extend the coverage they have with AOTV. Ooh, that's us. And they want to grow the esports side of if the opportunity arises, as long as it does not hurt the connected world and economy, which is the main focus.
See,
that's dev speak, and
yeah.
It's like political, and it's like sure esports.
Esports is a difficult one for me. I mean, we have the backbone for it, like, but we limit it so much by the style of game that we are. We are a war game. We are not a match-based game. It is about a war of attrition with a moving line of demarcation. It's this the lines of combat move. That's what this game is about. It's about territory. It's about political intrigue. Those are the main motivating factors in this game, not the win-loss record after every GVG and match. And an esports game is about, can I do the match again? 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 And all this shit that we put in between each matches slows down that esports train. Like, if you have to go get your gear again before you sign up because you lost all your gear, it's not an esport. If you have to wait till a perfect time of the day to go against somebody else, it's not an esport. If you can't grind out the skills, it's not really an esport. Now, hey, somebody's saying, hey, arena could be an esport. I agree.
I mean, in theory,
yeah. But it's never going to, it's not the high skill,
yeah,
it's not the high skill combat in this game. And because it doesn't have the highest skill cap, it'll never be the esport. Because people who want esports want that highest skill cap so that they can basically eliminate a large percentage of the population who would compete with them right off the bat, because they can't get to that skill cap. And if you lower it, it means that more people are going to compete, and the edge between the good people and the bad people is smaller. And people who engage in high-level esports want to engage in high skill cap games, so that the difference between a high-skilled player and a low-skilled player is huge, so that they have a better chance of winning. Like, they don't want to get knocked out of the arena because somebody got a lucky hit. They want to get beaten by somebody who has more skill than them. And that's not really the case with arena. Arena is a lot of luck and a lot of low skill plays.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't.
Lower item power. That's a debate for another
disagree
time.
There.
Okay. We
have some other points here that we can get into before we have to. We have about, I would say, 5 to 10 minutes before we have to turn this down and wait for Lupac. The next bigger topic is disarray and alliance point sharing.
This is a biggie.
That's always a very hot discussed topic that is currently also in a review phase, I would say. The questions was about the objective of disarray, and here the way it's formulated is that the idea is that disarray is supposed to make the decision whether or not it is appealing enough to bring more people to a fight than your opponent, and it's supposed to create a trade-off. So players think about and find different ways to do some fighting. Of course, they don't want to eliminate the big fights, but give bigger groups a reason to scale down a little bit, which has a background reason which is better for server performance. But also, the discussion on that wasn't. How do I phrase this? I'm trying to figure out whether or not there is a direct specific answer to this, or whether or not the devs are still like dancing around this and trying to figure out.
I think what they're saying is that they like it. They put it in light to begin with, like a light dose of disarray to begin with. They wanted to get initial feedback to see how it was working. And then once they got that feedback, they were like, okay, let's make bigger changes, because now we see how it works in practice. We can now effectively take a bigger chunk out of this. And going forward, they're going to continue to tweak this right up until Queen. I wouldn't be surprised if every invasion is slightly different. It's
if we deal with disarray for the next few months, honestly.
Yeah, I expect it to be changed.
These things will get moved up and down, and for various values tried. I think that's a long-term balance discussion here. Yeah. There was a concern noted about potential abuse of disarray mechanics, dropping guild and then doing more damage, and they will adjust that based on how people use it. I don't think there's much to say about this.
No, I mean, people have been experiencing it.
Balance thing where you're like, ugh, okay.
They're going to keep at it. Like, that's, I think, the most important part. It's very important to keep at it. They want to get it balanced. One of the things that did come up, and I've talked about it live on air a number of times, the idea that you can see how many players are in the zone by looking at the debuff of your opponent. And that did come up, and players don't like it. They don't want to know how much their opponent has, or have their opponent know how many they have. So while it will require some work, the devs are going to look into that. And I believe, Bogul, by the time Queen releases, that will be changed. I hope. I think that they're going to know, like, the feedback on this was clear. We like disarray. We hate how it's displayed. It's hurting certain parts of combat, but it's good, but we don't want to see it. And I think that they took that to heart, because right afterwards they did change the percentage, and we had even better feedback after the percentage changes after the last invasion. But you shouldn't be able to see how many your opponent has, or it completely defeats a lot of the reasons why the black zones work the way they do. And we could just go back to frickin' dots. I mean, if you're going to tell people how many people are in the zone. Throwback for the long-term listeners. Performance issues that were talked about with disarray. Now, they don't know for certain if disarray is causing this. They're willing to check it out and see how it works without disarray involved, but they want more feedback on these subjects. They've been asking for feedback. If you get 1 frame per second, if you get disconnected, if you get bad performance on an older machine, if your performance recently changed, if you are having problems, get your info down to the forums and get it in there for Mythosyria to take a look at, and hopefully we can help people. Because
so that's an ongoing process. I will find the link here, and then the next big topic is hideouts, and I don't know how much
we don't have time for hideouts today, guys. Tomorrow, like we're down to 10 minutes before crystals right now. Lupac should be in the other channel. We want to take a quick step away, and take a quick break. We have been talking for about an hour now. I will step away. I'll be back. And tomorrow, for Friday, we will go into the hideouts. That's going to be the big topic for tomorrow. We'll talk a lot about hideouts. It's so much
Maybe
info.
you can at least scroll down a little so people can be like, okay. And I will also post the Reddit thread. So in case you can't access that, you can read the full thing by yourself. There you go. Yeah. Hideouts tomorrow. This show.
It's Marty.
Probably same length tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll probably be another 50-minute show, but there won't be any GVGs after. So we'll just do the show tomorrow until it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
sure.
So it might be a super long show. I hope you guys enjoy tomorrow's show. I hope you enjoyed today's show. I've got 2 more raffles to pull, and then we're going to go on break. You guys can catch us Monday through Friday, 18 UTC, right here on twitch.tv/Albion Online. And then on Tuesday through Thursday, we stick around for another hour and a half. We do this thing we like to call Albion Live, where we watch GVGs, Crystal GVGs, city fights, whatever is going on at the time. We hit up some highlights, and we chat about the world of Albion with some knowledgeable folks, including the great Taziki and Lupak. So tune in for those. If you cannot watch us live, don't worry, guys. You can check us out on YouTube, or you can check us out on SoundCloud, both.com/AlbionTV. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time.
And in about 4 minutes for
in 4 minutes too. And Danomite22 you won. Armando Rosario, I think that's how we're going to pronounce it that way. Mm-hmm. Armandel Rosario, you've won the raffle. And Good Lem, you've won the raffle. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back in 5.
Yep.